being in the quarantine, right? So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, anyways, let's get started. We have a great treat for everyone because, and kudos to Josh because he threw out the idea for training this morning. Bruce had a great double-digit recruiting call on Tuesday with us. And by the way, if you're below RVP and you're not on the double-digit recruiting call, you want to get on that ASAP. We're gonna say it every single week and beat it like it's a dead horse, but we gotta say it because that call is just what we describe. We don't do any justice. You have to be there because the environment's caught, not taught, and you're gonna grab things that maybe me, Shondel, and Josh don't grab, right? So, anyways, on Tuesday he talked about how to recruit, how to license, but the biggest and most important, promoting to the big picture. So we're gonna alternate here, but let's start with the mentality, okay? So number one, there's two parts to this business and how to get to the big picture, right? The first one is talking about the micro. The second is talking about the macro. I'm going to be very brief here because I don't want to go over what Josh and Shondell are definitely going to go over in full detail. But the micro are the small step by step things. And when I say small, I don't mean like small, like 1 by 1,000. I just mean like those are the daily things that you really have to do. Like it could be scheduling, it could be you setting your goal for the month, right? For us, we got to hit 30 by 30 before we hit 50 by 50. But those numbers are not what really gets us excited. These are things that you have to do on a daily basis, the little things that add up to the big thing that we're going to touch on. You have to eat right, you have to sleep right, you got to drink right, you got to, get your recruits and get them started the great way, great way. And the fast start meeting has got to be perfect. And you got to talk about attendance and you got to talk about recruiting. You got to talk about premium and QA. Those are all the day to day things. And those are very important, but these are just the stepping stones on the way to the big picture, the macro. So when you're talking about the micro, what you're talking about and what you're coming from is a position of being the CFO, the chief financial officer for your business. And in every business, there's a CFO, and the CFO's responsibility is to work on the numbers. But then you put on another hat because in the beginning, you're really doing everything for your business, right? You wear several different hats in the beginning while you're building. The other hat you're wearing is a CEO hat. The CEO casts the vision of the company. And that's when you're not really talking about the day to day. You're talking about, hey, what's to come? Where are we headed? And this is not the where I was, where I am. It's where I'm going, where we're going. These are the things that you really get big on. These are the things that keep your people around and you around and going through the micro on a daily basis, going through the ups and downs in your business. The numbers are really hard to really be passionate about because if you were to talk about, let's say 10 by 10,000, if you haven't hit that yet, that's not going to get your people excited. That's what Bruce says. What's going to get your people excited is what they're headed for, why they came into the business. You got to steer the souls of your teammates by always touching on their why. I had a teammate under Keenan. Keenan had a teammate and she, kind of got discouraged a little bit. And what did I have to do? I had to go back to why she started the business. And her main goal was the big picture, right? So you got to always go back to what's in it for them. So we're going to break it down really quick. All right, guys, let's get it popping.
All right, guys. So the first thing that we want to discuss with you guys is more of the the micro scale things, the things that you want to focus on a day to day, which is always recruiting. Make sure you're always recruiting and always building your business. So when you look at that, guys, you always want to remember the 80-20 rule, the 80-20 rule. So that's also called the Pareto principle. So the 80-20 rule basically says that 20% of your people, your organization, your business will be responsible for a majority of the work, 80% of your production. The 80%ers are like the majority. They're going to do things here or there, so on and so forth. But the 20%ers, those are the ones that are really going to get things done. So when you always remember that rule, you have a better understanding of who your real players are and what your business actually looks like. So first things first, when you talk about recruiting, you want to double-digit recruit. Why do we focus on double-digit recruiting? Because if you recruit 10 people in a month, you know that out of those 10 people, 2 of them should be superstars for you, right? Should at least get licensed minimum. And then of those 2 people, hopefully those 2 are the ones that are looking to want to get promoted, right? everybody else is kind of like, hey, you don't really know what's going to happen with those people, but you recruit the 10 to find your two. If you add two solid people to your team every single month, I mean, that's what, 24 people that you're adding, almost 25 new people that are strong and leading into growing your attendance, guys. So with that, same thing. When you have your attendance, when we look at our numbers, I mean, it's amazing to see this. And we've always seen this before. Jen has always been the queen of attendance. And so when you look at it, I mean, if she had 64 today, times 20%, she has almost 12, 13 people on a regular basis killing it on her team. When you look at that, that's why she's having a licensing explosion. That's why she promoted two district leaders last month. So all of these things start to kind of converge and grow, but these are the things that you got to focus on and talk about on a day-to-day. These are the daily aspects of the business, the micro side, right? So that's huge. Then you always want to appreciate anybody that does something after submitting their IBA. So when Bruce was having this conversation, it kind of, I was like, wow, you're right. You're absolutely right. Because when we recruit somebody, we always have this high expectation, which we should have. We want to set high expectations for every single recruit that we have, but we have to appreciate that everybody that we hire, this is a voluntary business. They don't have to do anything. When you think about it, a lot of people, they do get started and then literally they quit the next day or 5 days later, right? Doing absolutely nothing. So when they do something, then you have to appreciate that, right? Encourage them, give them support. And so one of the first things is extremely important is making sure that you teach them right away, especially in the fast start meeting, to set an appointment and go on an appointment. Set an appointment and go on the appointment, right? You don't want to just set the appointment and then never go on the appointment, but you want to do both. So if they set an appointment, obviously you have to go through the process with them, teach them the scripts, the text messages, the process, what's an open, what's a carry back, what do you kind of go through on the presentation. Maybe do a presentation with them first, especially if they're qualified, before going out and doing any other appointments with other people on their list or in their market, right? So they can see how everything works, ask questions. But that's critical, because think about it, if you hire that person and they quit and they never went on an appointment, you never had that appointment. But at least if they set something, either with themselves personally, or if they're younger, a parent or somebody else, that's one more appointment that you would have never had, right? First sale, same thing. When you hire somebody, if they at least bring in one sale, hey, it was maybe now worth it that they joined the team. And the same thing with the teammate. You always want to have, I don't say this in a bad way, but you got to have an insurance policy on your teammates. You did all of that work, all of the prospecting you did on a day-to-day to get them to get started, join your team, and hopefully go through the system. But you got to get them a teammate ASAP. Bruce always says a recruit's not a recruit until they get a recruit. So when you get them their first teammate, now if they don't stick around, right, at least there's somebody else that you can continue to work with, right? But if you don't get them a teammate right away, then it's like, all right, man, they're either going to stay here. Bruce always says you look at them two ways. You look at them as they're going to be your next RVP, or they're going to be gone the next day. You never know which one it's going to be. But if you get them another teammate right away, hopefully if they are gone the next day, you have somebody else that you're working with, and then that process continues. You get them a teammate, and then them a teammate, and then you're continuing to go deep to kind of create that insurance through recruiting. And then I'm going to bridge into this a little bit. Josh is going to talk a little bit more about the licensing and the big picture, but you got to have a solid licensing system. You have to make sure that people get licensed. So I'm just going to go over some like the technical stuff, but when you talk about licensing, you always want to stress that from the day you meet the person. When we do a follow-up or an interview or they're on the webinar, we always let them know they got to get licensed. Is there any reason that you think you wouldn't be able to pass an exam if we gave you all of the materials? They have to know that that is the priority, because if they don't get licensed, they can't do anything else. So with that, when we talk about the field training bonus in the fast start meeting, the only way that bonus is going to pay out is if you pass your exam within 90 days. So you better start studying right away. So I know on our team, we get people set up on You Can Pass ASAP. They submit that IBA, I'm sending them the instructions for You Can Pass right away. I'm like, hey, log in. And I'm giving you guys a secret. We learned this, I don't know if you remember, Jen, but we learned it from one of the other RVPs. He sends the You Can Pass instructions to his teammates, but he does not give them the RVP solution number, right? So now think about it. Imagine you send the instructions. We used to send that over and over and over. And then we always have to ask the recruit, hey, did you sign up? Did you get your You Can Pass set up? I don't know, Jen, if you remember his name, but did you get your You Can Pass set up? You're always asking you never know. If you send them the instructions without the RVP solution number, they have to ask you. So when they get to that point of the registration, they're like, hey, Shondel, what's your solution number? Now I know that they have registered for You Can Pass. So that's huge, guys. That was just a minor tip, but I think it helps a lot in accountability. Also, you guys got to know all of the resources that are available online. So with that, there's Zoom live classes. A lot of the classes in person are no longer around. I don't know, I think they're getting in the process of starting them back up, but you got to know the schedules. And now that we're hiring people in different states, know the availability of classes per state. When you hire a recruit, figure out, okay, these are the typical times. They usually have them on a regular basis where they can have a 2-day class, whether it's 8 to 4, 9 to 5, all of that available, and let them know. There's also review Zoom courses. So the review Zoom courses are usually like throughout the week. I know in Maryland, they have them almost every single day. There's like a morning Zoom review course, in the evening, a Zoom review course. So even if people are at work and maybe they went to class or they're studying on You Can Pass and they're having trouble in some areas, the professors are very hands-on. I've had people on my team where they've had even one-on-one times with professors. So Primerica has a lot of the resources. You just got to know that they're there. And the steps for each state, like I was saying, you guys, I'm very technical. So I literally looked up every single state with everybody that is on our team across the country and looked up all of the licensing steps and the process, how to get scheduled, how to get appointed, what paperwork they want to need to get sent in. And I put them all on Zoom chats. So if somebody's in that state, then I'm like, all right, cool. Here's what you need to do. Everything's here. Follow these steps. These are the phone numbers. So if you want to get people licensed, you have to put in the time and the effort to make sure you know what's available for them and also make sure that they know what's available to them. So, okay, here's another thing. Some people are like, Shondel, I have work. I can't go to licensing class. Hey, well, you got to make some type of sacrifice. If you want to get licensed, it's either you're going to study on your own, which most people don't do on their own, or you can just take off. Imagine, I mean, like, people take off work for a lot of things and they don't bring in the type of money that you can bring in this business. So I make it a priority. I'm like, hey, show examples. Everybody in our business that has passed their exam first shot, a majority of them have went to class, not maybe just only one time, but maybe multiple times. So the licensing class is unfreaking believable. So you just want to have that importance and allow people to be able to utilize it. Right. And then we use additional things, like sometimes Mike helps people out as well. Or some people on the team that have passed the exam, they help people out as well. So those are some of the technical things on licensing, but it's critical, guys, to your guys' business. And Josh is going to go into some of the major details on why you want to get people licensed.
What's up, guys? Good morning. So this is the macro between the micro and macro separation. Macro is why we came to this business. Most people, you only come and get licensed in Primerica for 2 reasons. Number one, large, fat, part-time income, or regional vice president, where it's just absolutely stupid money. If you unlock the combination to, in my opinion, licensing, which we're in the process of doing ourselves, licensing equals overrides. That's why I say it's the macro, because overrides is the macro. The macro is financial independence, where your passive income and residual income exceeds your monthly expenses by a landslide. Your passive and residual income exceeds your monthly expenses by a landslide. That's when you're financially independent. And I'm going to give more examples on licensing later on in the presentation here, but in our own hierarchy, the gentleman that taught me everything I know is a beautiful example of how licensing and a focus on recruiting first to license and train and promote people can benefit somebody's life. Samir Qureshi back in August did 40,000 in production, 40,000 in production. Okay. And when all this comes together, you'll see how scary this just is. Licensing, it says, is proportionate to production. The amount of licenses you have in your base shop or through your first generation RVPs combined will be proportionate to the production that you do towards the end of the month in terms of clients submitted and stuff like that. So back in August, Samir did 40,000 in production in his base shop. Now Samir has 150 to 200 licensed people in totality. And I believe we just went over the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, which says 20% of any organization will be responsible for the majority of the results in that organization. So if Samir's got 150 to 200 licensed people, 20% of 200 is 40. And that's exactly what Samir did in August. 40,000 in production. Now here's the most impressive part of it. Guess how much of the 40,000 was him? None. Nothing. 40,000 in life insurance production. I'm going to get to the securities in a second. But 40,000, 40 sales came into his business and he did none of it. And that did not happen by accident. It happened on purpose because he made a decision, like you all on this call should make a decision. Just decide, meaning put to rest all other choices. Suicide means you take your own life. Meaning like you take away the option of life. And homicide means you take away personally the option of someone else's life. Decide means you put to rest all other options. You take away all other options, and you must decide to become a recruiter and a big licenser as well. Licensing will change your lives. Licensing is our mantra right now, at least on Shondel's and I's team. Okay, licensing, we understand, is the key to, it's the answer. Everyone's looking for the answer on success in Primerica. It is licensing. Licensing through first generation RVPs equals annual income. So, you know, I study these numbers. Samir is a $300,000 earner, and 100,000 of that comes from securities, basically. So that means $200,000 of Samir's income comes from life insurance production. Guess how much of it he does? Less than 5%. So what does that mean? 200 licensed people in his organization, and he earns $200,000 per year.